In the early hours of March 18, 1984, a chilling crime unfolded that would forever haunt Japan. Two major confectionery companies, Glico and Morinaga, found themselves at the center of a terrifying kidnapping and extortion plot. As the public consumed their favorite snacks, a sinister game of cat and mouse played out behind the scenes, with a shadowy figure pulling the strings. How did a simple abduction escalate into a nationwide manhunt? What secrets lay hidden beneath the surface? Today, we unravel the harrowing tale of the Glico-Morinaga case. A story of greed, fear, and the quest for justice that still echoes in the annals of true crime. The Glico-Morinaga case is not just a tale of crime. It reflects broader societal fears and the darker sides of human nature. It showcases the interplay between wealth, power, and vulnerability, leaving behind scars that would shape the lives of many for years to come. As we navigate this labyrinth of deception, you will find that the essence of this case extends beyond the crime itself, touching on themes of survival, resilience, and the search for justice. The backdrop of the Glico-Morinaga case begins with the remarkable success of Glico, a company renowned for its popular Pocky snack, and a variety of other confectionery products. Founded in 1948 by Riichi Izaki, Glico flourished into a giant in the Japanese snack industry, amassing billions of yen in revenue each year. At the same time, Morinaga, established in 1899, was also a titan in the sweets market, famous for its delectable chocolates and candies. Both companies became household names in Japan, dominating the market and earning the loyalty of millions of consumers. With great success, however, came unwanted attention. The 1980s were marked by a thriving economy in Japan, but this prosperity attracted criminal elements looking to exploit the rich and famous. As Glico and Morinaga continued to thrive, they unknowingly stepped into a treacherous game of high stakes that would change their futures forever. The atmosphere of the time was charged with tension. Organized crime syndicates, or yakuza, were increasingly involved in illicit activities, creating a culture of fear. Companies that reached the pinnacle of success often found themselves as targets for extortion and kidnappings, leading to a sense of vulnerability among business leaders. It was within this volatile environment that the seeds of the Glico-Morinaga case were sown, culminating in one of Japan's most infamous criminal events. On the night of March 18, 1984, Yoshio Nagai, the managing director of Glico, was driving home from work when his life took a harrowing turn. As he pulled into his driveway, a group of men surrounded his car, forcing him inside a waiting vehicle. The abduction was swift and violent, designed to send a message to Glico and others in the industry that someone was pulling the strings from the shadows. Nagai was held captive for several days, during which his abductors made demands for a ransom of 1 billion yen, an astronomical sum at the time. While the public remained blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing behind the scenes, the pressure mounted for Glico. Faced with a life-or-death situation, they were confronted with a dilemma: cooperate with the kidnappers or risk Nagai's life. Meanwhile, the kidnappers were not just criminals, they were strategic and methodical. They carefully planned the abduction and prepared a series of chilling communications to Glico, ensuring that they had the upper hand. Their objective was not just financial gain, but also to instill fear in the hearts of Glico's leadership and the wider business community. As days passed, the sense of urgency grew. Glico's leadership knew that they needed to respond, but what could they do without compromising Nagai's safety? They weighed their options carefully, and while the financial burden was immense, the safety of their colleague remained the top priority. While Nagai was being held captive, the kidnappers sent a series of ominous letters to both Glico and Morinaga, outlining their demands and threatening to harm Nagai if their wishes were not met. These letters were laced with dark humor and included detailed instructions on how to handle the ransom. The goal was clear: to create a sense of urgency and fear among the employees of both companies. These letters were more than mere communications. They were psychological weapons. Each letter painted a picture of the kidnappers' resolve, threatening violence and chaos if Glico failed to comply. They claimed to have detailed knowledge of Glico's operations and warned that failure to meet their demands would lead to dire consequences. Even more disturbing, the letters contained veiled threats to poison Glico products, sending shockwaves through the company and causing panic among the public. The media became an unwitting accomplice in the drama that unfolded. As news of the kidnapping broke, the story quickly gained traction, igniting public interest and concern. Television screens and newspaper headlines were filled with reports about the abduction, ransom demands, and the potential consequences for the candy industry. Public fascination transformed into fear as people began to consider the implications of organized crime infiltrating major corporations. In response to the rising public concern, Glico made a crucial decision. They chose to remain silent about the kidnapping. They feared that any misstep could jeopardize Nagai's life. This silence only added to the air of mystery surrounding the case, captivating the nation as speculation ran rampant about who could be behind the abduction and what would happen next. The media frenzy surrounding the Glico-Morinaga case reached fever pitch. News outlets were obsessed with every detail, from the initial kidnapping to the unfolding ransom saga. Journalists camped outside Glico's headquarters, desperate for any scrap of information to share with the public. As the days stretched into weeks, the story became more than just a criminal investigation. It was a cultural phenomenon. Media coverage had far-reaching implications. It placed immense pressure on Glico to respond effectively, while also ensuring Nagai's safety. As the company grappled with how to navigate the situation, the public remained glued to their screens, hungry for updates. This insatiable curiosity fueled the narrative, creating a spectacle that transcended mere news reporting. The public's fascination was not limited to the crime itself. It also reflected a collective anxiety about safety and the vulnerabilities of those in positions of power. Consumers, who had always viewed Glico and Morinaga as stalwarts of quality and safety, began to question whether their beloved snacks were tainted by the shadows of crime. The notion that something so innocent could be connected to violence created an atmosphere of paranoia. Amidst the chaos, Glico and Morinaga were faced with the daunting task of managing their public image while ensuring the safety of their employees. They initiated emergency protocols, focusing on internal security and employee safety measures. This, however, was a delicate balancing act. The fear of losing trust from their customer base loomed large as they worked to navigate the treacherous waters of public relations. As time wore on, Glico felt the mounting pressure to act. The company was determined to secure Nagai's safe return, and it became clear that they could no longer wait for the kidnappers to come forward. They began collaborating with law enforcement agencies to devise a rescue plan, hoping to put an end to the nightmare. The police meticulously monitored the ransom drop-off points while simultaneously conducting an extensive investigation into the letters and clues left behind by the kidnappers. Each detail was crucial, and every piece of evidence needed careful analysis. The authorities realized that they were dealing with a highly organized group, and their approach had to be equally sophisticated. A breakthrough occurred when investigators deciphered coded messages hidden within the letters. These codes contained a series of clues that hinted at the location of Nagai's captivity. Meanwhile, the kidnappers remained confident that they had the upper hand, believing that Glico's silence indicated weakness. On March 23, 1984, as the ransom exchange was set to take place, law enforcement launched a rescue operation, hoping to save Nagai. Unfortunately, the kidnappers were one step ahead, and the plan failed spectacularly. The rescue attempt descended into chaos, leaving Nagai still missing and the authorities scrambling for answers. As the days dragged on with no sign of Nagai, Glico's leadership faced a harrowing reality. They were caught in a web of fear, uncertainty, and desperation. Each moment without news of Nagai's whereabouts felt like an eternity, and the weight of the situation began to take a toll on everyone involved. Just when the situation seemed to spiral into hopelessness, a shocking twist occurred. On April 2, 1984, after more than 2 weeks in captivity, Nagai was finally released, not through a police operation, but through his own daring escape. The circumstances of his release added layers of intrigue to an already complex narrative. Nagai's account of his time in captivity sent shockwaves through the nation. Upon his release, he recounted his harrowing experience, describing how he had been blindfolded and locked in a small room, deprived of basic comforts. The psychological torment he endured left him deeply traumatized. The kidnappers had relentlessly threatened him, demanding that he confess Glico's secrets. But despite the fear, Nagai remained resolute and strong-willed. His escape came after days of planning. The captors, perhaps underestimating his resolve, let their guard down. Nagai seized the opportunity to flee, navigating his way through darkness and uncertainty. He managed to make his way to a nearby police station, where he revealed the full extent of his ordeal. The investigation intensified in the wake of Nagai's escape. Police were more determined than ever to bring the kidnappers to justice. They examined every detail of Nagai's story, piecing together the timeline of his captivity. Meanwhile, the media coverage remained relentless, with reporters clamoring for updates on the investigation and the potential identities of the kidnappers. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the Glico-Morinaga case was more than a simple kidnapping. It was a manifestation of deep-rooted societal issues. The public's fascination with the case stemmed not just from the crime itself, but from a broader anxiety about safety and the dark underbelly of corporate success. The criminals involved were not just criminals. They were symbols of fear and vulnerability in a society increasingly obsessed with wealth and power. Despite the investigation's intensity, the identities of the kidnappers remained elusive. As weeks turned into months, the case grew colder. Police pursued various leads, but with each passing day, the hope of finding the culprits faded. The public began to question whether justice would ever be served, creating an air of frustration and disappointment. In a shocking twist of fate, the case took a turn for the bizarre when a series of unrelated crimes began to surface across Japan. As law enforcement expanded their investigations, they began to uncover a web of criminal activity that connected to the Glico-Morinaga case. These new developments pointed to the involvement of organized crime syndicates, revealing a network that extended far beyond the initial kidnapping. The growing connections between the Glico-Morinaga case and other crimes prompted law enforcement to reassess their approach. They realized that this was not just a single incident, but part of a larger, systemic issue rooted in organized crime. As they delved deeper, the investigation took on new dimensions, intertwining with the narratives of power, fear, and societal decay. As authorities sought to connect the dots, a number of suspects emerged. Law enforcement began to scrutinize known criminal figures, analyzing their potential involvement in the kidnapping. The complexity of the investigation grew as they uncovered the intricate relationships between the suspects and the Yakuza. Throughout the investigation, public sentiment shifted from outrage to frustration. The initial fascination with the case began to wane as the lack of resolution left many feeling disillusioned. Glico and Morinaga continued to bear the burden of public scrutiny, with consumers torn between their love for the products and their concerns about safety. Just when it seemed that the case would fade into obscurity, a key breakthrough occurred. In 1985, police arrested a group of suspects linked to the kidnapping, including a known criminal named Takahiro Tsutsumi. The arrest brought renewed hope for justice, but as the investigation progressed, it became clear that Tsutsumi was merely a pawn in a much larger game. In the courtroom, the trial of Tsutsumi and his accomplices became a spectacle. The media frenzy reignited as reporters clamored to uncover every detail. The courtroom became a theater for public intrigue, with testimonies painting a vivid picture of the criminal underworld and the motivations behind the kidnapping. As the trial unfolded, the narrative shifted once more. The public became captivated by the psychological aspects of the crime, leading to debates about the motivations of the kidnappers and the impact of organized crime on society. Experts weighed in on the socio-economic factors that drove individuals to such extremes, further complicating the narrative. The conclusion of the trial left the nation divided. Tsutsumi was sentenced to prison, but the larger conspiracy behind the Glico-Morinaga case remained largely unresolved. The sense of closure that the public craved was elusive, and many felt that justice had not been fully served. In the years that followed, the Glico-Morinaga case became a symbol of fear, greed, and the complexities of human behavior. It served as a cautionary tale, reflecting the vulnerabilities of even the most powerful companies. The case also ignited discussions about the need for greater security measures within corporations, as well as the importance of addressing the root causes of crime in society. The aftermath of the Glico-Morinaga case had far-reaching implications. Glico and Morinaga worked tirelessly to rebuild their reputations, focusing on transparency and safety to regain public trust. Meanwhile, law enforcement intensified efforts to combat organized crime, leading to a crackdown on criminal syndicates across Japan. As the years went by, the Glico-Morinaga case faded from the headlines, but its impact remained. The psychological scars left by the kidnapping continued to haunt Nagai and others involved. The specter of fear lingered over Japan, a constant reminder that success could attract danger in the most unexpected ways. The Glico-Morinaga case remains a defining moment in Japan's history, a story of resilience, survival, and the complexities of human nature. It illustrates the fragility of safety in a world driven by greed and power. The echoes of this crime continue to resonate, reminding us all that beneath the surface of success lies the potential for darkness, waiting to strike when least expected. This story serves as a cautionary tale about the intricacies of crime, the quest for justice, and the enduring impact of fear on society. As we reflect on the Glico-Morinaga case, we are left with questions that linger in the air. What drives individuals to commit such heinous acts? How can society protect itself from the shadows that lurk behind the facade of success? In conclusion, the Glico-Morinaga case is not just a story of a kidnapping. It is a reflection of the complexities of human nature and the societal forces that shape our lives. It serves as a powerful reminder that even in the pursuit of success, one must always be aware of the lurking shadows, as they may hold the key to understanding the depths of fear and the human experience. The tale of Glico and Morinaga continues to captivate and intrigue, ensuring that the echoes of the past will not be forgotten.